Good evening and welcome to OPC Season 2. I'm Kevin AVRL Walker, joined with me this evening, Matt Pixie Carroll, as we head into Week 4, day number 3. Going to start things off this evening with Ardeont taking on Hong Kong Attitude.
It's going to be a pretty good one, honestly, for both of these teams. Hong Kong Attitude nearly got taken out by Mega Thunder last night, but were able to persevere in that matchup. They've had good performances on the whole, have earned themselves a spot in third place in the tournament so far, but we still feel there is a bit of a gulf between them and both Flash Wolves and Ardeont. But their series against Flash Wolves in Round Robin 1 went to a full 5 games. They will be looking to win that game when these two teams meet in the second Round Robin. But first, they're going to have to come up against Ardeont. You'd almost wish for that to be in the other order if you're Hong Kong Attitude. Ardeont, on the other hand, again going to be facing a very real challenge.
Well, we're getting a few thoughts from both sides before we head into the match. It's going to be JFBS Live, the coach of Hong Kong Attitude, and Michelle, the flex player from Ardeont.
某水果说我们是地球保卫军，要打败外星人。
So Mango Jai says, Jay speaking on behalf of Mango Jai says, we're here to, essentially we're ready to beat you, but we're here to protect our homeland from the invaders. So
저희는 이번 경기 꼭 이겨서 계속 목표 행진으로 이어가겠습니다.
哇，目前拥有不败之称的王者，他们是说他们也已经准备好拿下这场比赛，继续迈向他们的连胜之路了。好了，我们先礼后兵。
Michelle says they're extremely well prepared for this matchup and
谢谢两位代表。
shouldn't be too hard.
比赛马上就要开始了。
I mean, Mango Chai's from Hong Kong, so these
I
guys aren't in Hong Kong right now.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
It's kind of like you know. Now it's the Korean team coming into the APAC tournament.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, it's more like protect OPC.
I don't know,
but look, in any case, well, I don't know. Maybe they're not the right guys to do it. Look, I kind of want to go back to what I was saying before, and that this is the sort of win Hong Kong Attitude is still kind of looking to get. Like they've got a spot in top 4 right now. The goal needs to be to stay secure in that spot. But in terms of the other kind of goals this team would have, they've still kind of got that hit list from Season 1, where they were able to take out AHQ, they were able to take out Blank. Done that a few times now. Still haven't quite taken out Flash Wolves, the closest they have come. And you can almost expect them to maybe overcome that when those two teams meet in this round robin. But Ardeont has had to be added to that list now just by sheer virtue of them coming into this tournament and looking so good. So maybe the harder target as far as getting the hit out goes, but this is a win that for, I don't know, personal reasons, I guess, Hong Kong Attitude would want to pick up.
And you still do have to look at the previous matchup as well, because Hong Kong Attitude, they had a really close run against Mega Thunder last night. That could have been a loss. That loss would have meant that Hong Kong Attitude really struggles in the second round robin to maintain their positioning. But because they won instead, they're now much more secure in that top 4. Now they're chasing off the big dogs, already eyeing up the #1 spot, which is Ardeont.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, look, Hong Kong Attitude are still going to have to beat out AHQ and Blank again to really stay secure in that top 4. They probably can do that, but they do still have to cross that bridge when they come to it. That being said, a win here would make them so much more secure, they would almost be impossible to dislodge at that point. So that would be really huge. But of course, we have to be honest, Ardeont are the favorites coming into this matchup. They are still undefeated overall. They've only lost 1 map so far to Flash Wolves. That has been the toughest challenge Ardeont have faced yet. And since then, they've only played Liberland Supreme, which honestly was a pretty expected result out of them, another 3-0. But Hong Kong Attitude are another team that can very much be taking maps off Ardeont. So the fact that Michelle's saying they're prepared, well, good. They need to be.
And the last time these two teams did match up as well, Ardeont took home a comfortable 3-0. They're looking to repeat that standing once more. Let's take a look at the team now. Let's go and introduce Team Ardeont. And it's going to be Republic on tank, Animo on support, Jeff on support, DM on offense, Michelle on flex, and Erster on offense.
And of course, coming up against them on Hong Kong Attitude, we got a bit of a look at them before, but to refresh your memory, CQB on support, a Ting, their main tank player, Randy on flex, Mango Jai, who was spoken for by the coach on support, Xiaolin, their tracer player on offense, and Mui also on offense. So the last time these two teams met was the first day of the first round robin. That was when that 3-0 happened. So that is the history between these two teams, but the other major factor here is how much Hong Kong Attitude have picked up. After getting a couple of early losses, they started to hit their stride a little bit later on, and I kind of identify the match against Flash Wolves as a turning point. They lost it, but it came close, and from there, they've really accelerated and are looking good. So this is a stronger Hong Kong Attitude than last time these two teams played. The question is it strong enough to beat Ardeont now?
And you do have to remember from that matchup as well, Hong Kong Attitude really pushed Ardeont, not in terms of the actual record itself. It was still a 3-0 victory for Ardeont. However, not the most comfortable 3-0 Ardeont have got. In fact, it was one of the few times that Ardeont were pushed, as well as the time that Flash Wolves actually took them on in the first round robin. The other thing to sort of note for this Ardeont team is on the Friday we did see the Smurf come out instead of Republic on the tank role. This time around, it will be Republic taking up the reins once again. So kind of the reasoning for that change up on the Friday was the fact that Ardeont versus Libent Supreme, a more expected result as we're sort of talking about there. Good time to bring out Smurf. Good time to sort of test the waters a bit and see how flexible this team is. But now it's serious time again.
Exactly. And you hate to say it, that frankly, but it really is that sort of situation, right? Republic is their main tank player. They've fielded him every single match so far with a few small exceptions. And yeah, bringing out Smurf was exactly because that was an expected win. It would have been quite hard for them to lose it. Don't get me wrong. Like, let's not beat about the bush with that. But yeah, Republic out tonight. No changes on the side of Hong Kong Attitude. Not that they're a team that really makes significant changes, to be sure, but they are looking good on the whole. But the other thing we do have to appreciate is the match against Mega Thunder. Look, Mega Thunder are looking very good right now. Their goal is to break into playoffs, and they have the chops to do it. So that was an expectedly close game. But still, if you're Hong Kong Attitude wanting to beat out teams like Ardeont and Flash Wolves, ideally, you want to be 3-0ing everyone below you in the standings.
Which is important because that does speak a lot about Hong Kong Attitude's ability now to come into this matchup. They've already been 0-3 by Ardeont in the past, and that was Ardeont not in their best form. They admitted on that day they did not play their best, and it's certainly with the next day that we did see Ardeont, they came up against Libent Supreme. They looked much better, and then against Mega Thunder on the third day of the opening week, looked even better still. So for Hong Kong Attitude, they've improved throughout this series so far. They've improved throughout the second season, but Ardeont, they've been looking incredibly dominant. 21-1 record in maps. In fact, I think it's even bigger than that, maybe 24-1 record.
Yeah, it is now.
There's no team that is as dominant as that, and the statistics don't lie.
No, well, even Flash Wolves across Season 1, with their huge undefeated streak, weren't ever quite this dominant as well. Like, it's an absolutely phenomenal record on the whole. So the other thing, though, and this is worth mentioning just by the way, if we are going to contextualize Hong Kong Attitude's performance yesterday against Mega Thunder and talk about its potential effect here, the thing we also have to appreciate, Hong Kong Attitude were 0-3'd by Ardeont on the first day of competition. They were 0-3'd by Mega Thunder quite early on in the competition as well, actually. So when we talk about how Hong Kong Attitude have improved, look, that's the exact evidence of that. They have gone from losing against Mega Thunder to beating them now just last night, having also picked up enough wins along the way, by the way, to take third place while Mega Thunder are currently at 6th. That's pretty telling in itself. So yeah, there is real evidence to suggest that this team can take it to Ardeont. But again, you kind of hit the nail on the head here. The dominance of Ardeont right now is unprecedented. It's really hard to tell whether or not a team is going to be able to take them out, no matter how good they're looking.
All right, well, we're going to get this underway very soon. Ardeont now picking their first map. Lijiang Tower is where we're going to start things off with. So the home pick rather, going to Ardeont, and they're going back to a very standard map. We've seen a lot of Lijiang Tower from this team, even against other teams. Most teams pick it against them. We've barely seen them play any other map, but why would you change now?
Exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And of course, Ardeont will have that home side as well. So they get the control map pick. They will also get the Assault and second hybrid, whereas Hong Kong Attitude will get map picks 2 and 4 in the form of the first hybrid pick and Escort. That is, of course, if we go that far, because Ardeont's 3-0 record is, well, aside from that one hiccup against Flash Wolves, pretty unbeaten at this point.
They've only lost one map, and that was a Numbani on the hybrid, the second map in the series between Ardeont and Flash Wolves. Aside from that, completely squeaky clean effect for Ardeont. They would have preferred to go through this entire tournament without dropping a single map. Flash Wolves had something to say about that, and maybe Hong Kong Attitude still have a statement to make.
They're just cool and calm right now. It would be the vibe, I suppose, coming off both of these teams, right? they've done a lot of preparation for this match, both of them. Ardeont, this is one of their toughest matches of the week, so they are going to go in with a lot of respect to Hong Kong Attitude. We've talked about how even these topmost teams in the standings, especially Ardeont and Flash Wolves, cannot rest on their laurels. That was evidenced yesterday with Flash Wolves picking up a loss. Ardeont certainly don't want to follow Flash Wolves' record there and pick up their first loss of the season right now.
And let's not forget Hong Kong Attitude is the third place team right now in the current standings. That to Ardeont you can't take very lightly at all. Flash Wolves already gave you a good run for your money. Hong Kong Attitude are looking better than ever. So if you're Ardeont, absolutely right. Cannot be resting on your laurels here. The third best team right after Flash Wolves. This is their next toughest match.
It's actually quite a significant thing. It's funny, isn't it? Because we still talk about Hong Kong Attitude as being, you know, on the up, etc., and they're in the top 4, but they're not necessarily secure yet. It's actually very easy to forget that this is the third place team in a tournament of 8 teams. They are better than every other team below them. They have beaten every other team below them and lost to the 2 teams above them. They are exactly where they should be in the standings in that regard. It's very easy to forget that, but that's more telling, if nothing else, of Ardeont's dominance.
Let's see now, Hong Kong Attitude still trying to decide exactly who they want on the Tracer and who they want on the Genji. Before this Lee Jung Tower map, it will be Shailin returning back on Genji, Mui this time on Tracer. It seems like they've had a lot of time to sort of decide exactly who plays what. This might just be the answer.
And it does mean you lose Shailin on the Tracer, but Mui's Tracer is, honestly, he's no slouch on it. That's a good early pick though onto Mango Jai. DM good pressure down, and Mui not really finding the same angles on the supports, getting a little bit pressured out. This means Ardeont kind of have the ground control here, and Hong Kong Attitude are a little split. Not going to have any more casualties, but this point is going to belong to Ardeont when it unlocks.
It's a clean fight in terms of no big deaths for either side, and with Hong Kong Attitude you lose one member, you fall out. Ardeont going to respect the fallout, not going to overchase this, not going to overcommit this, and DM already picking up another one.
And that was, of course, Mui, who was on the process of regrouping with his team. Hong Kong Attitude aren't going to back down from this one yet, but again, there's now actually nothing that can really deal with DM and keep him at bay. Shailin looking to get dropped down with the follow-up there. Does actually get out with his life, but it is still Ardeont with the hold on the point. That's really what counts, because that was Hong Kong Attitude's ability, or opportunity rather, to get a quick grab.
And neither team has really committed really hard into any fights yet. Both teams just feeling each other out, but it has been DM consistently picking up the kills. 3 now on the board for him. Ursa's got 1 as well for Hong Kong Attitude. Still waiting for a bit of action out of this team. Still waiting to see where they're going to initiate and who they're going to target.
That's Ursa going deep into the back line, and that's great follow-up, but they do have to turn tail, leaves the team vulnerable. He's got to top himself off before they can really go in for this fight in earnest and take advantage of that numerical superiority they now have. Now getting onto the point, Mui getting picked though, unfortunately, as they go in, and Shailin just not getting much done with this Dragon Blade, unfortunately. DM, on the other hand, just able to get all these pickups. Now they want to go aggressive, get a route. Need to be a little bit careful, do need to respect the Hong Kong Attitude are peeling back well, but they do hold on. That's what counts.
And this is why you do have to consider DM here, because despite the fact that Ursa overcommitted on the Dragon Blade, he was punished. DM got a return kill very quickly. Then Shailin went in with his own Dragon Blade, had the same result as Ursa, got absolutely nothing. We're already up to 70%, and it still feels like we haven't seen much out of Hong Kong Attitude.
Mango Jai going to have to use the Transcendence just to keep the tanks in the fight, but that's the kind of opening they've been looking for. DM can land a good Pulse Bomb, but no good follow-up by Mui there. Closes out on Ursa, and DM goes wide on the Pulse Bomb. They do get 1 back. Ardeont are going to make this costly for Hong Kong Attitude, and they're getting a couple on the back end as well that's going to make it possible for them to come in and recontest. Finally closing out on DM, though, is a big boon for them. They don't have any healers, though, just yet, so every spot of damage that Ardeont throw down counts, and this is the extra commit we see out of them with that sound barrier on top, but CQB now back in the fray, can keep the team safe, and a 10 getting topped off. They have to win another round of kills still, Hong Kong Attitude. Ardeont can very much stabilize and hold the point, but it looks like Hong Kong Attitude is going to be able to stay in command of this fight now.
It does appear that way, but Ardeont don't want to give up too early. They're still able to just weave in these small picks here and there. Transcendence being popped down. Shailin with the Dragon Blade. He's not going to get any kills here. This should just be an easy defense.
It looks like it. Unfortunately, Hong Kong Attitude couldn't get that last couple of kills they need. And this is exactly how Ardeont play. This is exactly what Hong Kong Attitude should expect. Even though Hong Kong Attitude won a fight, and they did win it, don't make mistakes there, my friends. Ardeont made sure they had the opportunity to recontest and that meant Hong Kong Attitude had to win 2 fights in a row and were unable to.
Well, that's the real question, right? Because they want to fight, question mark. Because at the end of the day, Ardeont were always able to stay in there. Even just keeping a couple members alive, they never really let the cap go over. You win the fight, you need to get presence on the cap itself. You need to turn it into progress. You need to turn it into objective. That's not something Hong Kong Attitude were really capable of doing. Certainly, Ardeont had their dial and consistently maintained control of the cap. That's why we saw 100-0. But really, for Hong Kong Attitude, where they sort of made the big mistake, early on in the game, about 50% went by. They had no real presence. They only got that first team fight after the 50%.
Not a bad performance, all told, from Hong Kong Attitude. Just not a smooth performance either. They just need to get a little bit more out of the things they're committing to so far. That's a bit more early pressure onto DM this time. But now Ardeont going to go right on in. Good catch onto Randy. The triple DPS, unfortunately not paying off for Hong Kong Attitude. They wanted to be the proactive ones, but Ardeont just kind of reading it and going in at the right time. This is, again, going to give them control of the point as it unlocks.
This is a strange composition for Hong Kong Attitude, and already feeling like maybe it's not the way to go. Randy going to hold on to the McCree for a little bit longer. Strange map to also see Sombra as well. Not a lot of health packs to play on. If a quick EMP comes out, maybe Hong Kong Attitude has an opportunity.
That could really be the turnaround point for them, you're quite right. And Randy also needs to get more pressure onto Erster than he currently is, because Erster is really wreaking havoc with this one tank on the front line. Now they're going in for another commit. This time, though, not as clean, but they've got the defensive ultimates anyway to steer them through the fight, and that's the Transcendence now from Jeff. CQB going to steer the team clean through, but a great stick on Randy. They get a trade in here, but now it's just down to these 2 remaining DPSs trying to follow up on this EMP, which didn't really connect on enough people, but the Dragon Blade going to start doing the work now. Doesn't quite get the kill on Republic, it seems. He's going to be able to retreat to a health pack, and Shailin does have to respect that. Again, Ardeont had the opportunity to come in for a recontest.
Ursa, the only casualty there from Ardeont. You expect a little bit more for Hong Kong Attitude. They have the damage to do so. You've got triple DPS. Randy's been consistently dead, though. Shailin needs a little bit more out of the Dragon Blade. And now Ursa's respawned. And Republic has to be the man to talk about for Ardeont.
Yeah, and this is exactly what they're doing to stay in these fights, to give themselves the extra opportunities, is the few members that are alive, make sure to prioritize the supports. They do so safely. And Hong Kong Attitude, you kind of find yourself up a tree without a ladder, right? You don't have any of that support beneath you to actually hold on to the ground you've gained.
And now Hong Kong Attitude are committed to this composition as well. It's too late to swap off. You're going to change now. It's definitely, you're not going to have enough time to actually build those ultimates. You do have some now, so you've got to make do with what you've got. Hong Kong Attitude, this could be the very last opportunity for them to make something happen.
Well, they're going to have to make something happen. It's really that simple. Erster Deep has to use the Meteor Strike to get to safety, but Key will be able to get to safety. DM, meanwhile, 1v1ing out Randy. That is unfortunate. That's one of the few ultimates that Hong Kong Attitude had here. They don't really want to go aggressive just yet.
You can't really put too much blame onto Randy here, because there certainly is a plan for Hong Kong Attitude. You're just not seeing that plan come into fruition. You're not seeing the execution of what's really meant to be happening here, and already looking like disaster.
Erster getting the pick on Shailin is massive, because the Dragon Blade could have been all they needed to close it out. Now the ultimates they have, they just kind of have to use the Transcendence first and the Deadeye as well, but the Deadeye finds nothing. EMP in from Mui is good, but Shailin's only just rejoined. He's not there just yet to actually capitalize on it. Now the EMPs run out as Shailin enters the fray. But the sound barrier is there. It's hard for Shailin to close out these kills, and he's only got a ting on the front lines to protect him. Goes down on the back end of that one. Randy gets 1 kill for style points, but Ardeont with a pretty clean 2-0.
That was to be expected, to be quite honest there, especially onto night markets. You do still have to question exactly what Hong Kong Attitude were trying to achieve there. You saw little bits of different pieces trying to come together, but never see the whole puzzle in its full picture. So for Hong Kong Attitude, Randy didn't see the effect of the McCree very much. You compare it to Mui on the McCree, and you're going to have to, because Mui is a usual McCree player. He's the one getting a lot of kills, a lot of headshots, a lot of accurate flashbangs. Randy, you don't even see him on the kill feed whatsoever. The only time you do see him is when he's dead.
And I want to touch on the thing I mentioned partway through that, because look, if you ever wonder how it is Ardeont are able to kind of trickle into these fights where they have numerical disadvantages often, it's exactly that what I mentioned in the game. It's that they keep killing the supports. They are very consistent at doing that. They're always able to do it. They do so safely enough that it doesn't cost them, and it means that the team you know, 4 versus whatever as they may be, they can't actually top off health of anyone. And it means Ardeont can just kind of keep flitting in and out of the fight, which is very easy to do on that highly mobile Tracer and Doomfist, or alternatively the Genji that they very much favor. And like I said, every bit of damage you land at that point counts, because it can't get topped off, and then when you have regrouped, you have a health advantage.
Now Ardeont take up 1-0 so far, 2-0 lead on against 2-0 lead on Lijiang Tower against Hong Kong Attitude. Both of those maps 100-0. Hong Kong Attitude had no real presence so far on either of the stages of Lijiang Tower. You expect a little bit more from Hong Kong Attitude now moving into the hybrid. It will also be their pick. But Hong Kong Attitude, you know, we did mention in previous matches, you know, where the team's going to try and experiment, what are the teams going to try and bring out into the new patch. That was Hong Kong Attitude trying something different. Let's take a look at the moment again. This is going to be into the replay towards the end in the final fight now, and Shailin going down 98%. That's very critical. You need that Dragon Blade. This is when finally Hong Kong Attitude actually do have ultimates to be able to use. Mui waiting to get the EMP in here. Randy with the Deadeye as well, somewhere in the back line. Doesn't really find much. EMP finally comes out, but instantly Mui will die here along with Mango Jai. You already have a lack of healing. Now you've lost one of your main healers, Shailin, with the Dragon Blade in the last moments. It's not going to be enough because there is a sound barrier to counter out.
And the reality is that was pretty much unwinnable from the moment Shailin got picked up by Erster. Getting CQB with the self-destruct was icing on the cake, but it was unfortunate because Hong Kong Attitude, at the very least, were going into that pretty even in terms of ultimates. It could have been a potentially winnable fight. Every fight with even ultimates is potentially winnable, even though the record so far has been that Hong Kong Attitude hasn't even won those fights. So it's kind of heartbreaking to not even get the opportunity to really give that fight an earnest go and try and take out that win.
And you do see the difference when Randy isn't on the D.Va either, because there's something so much more susceptible to damage here. You don't have that defensive matrix. He's been doing a great job on D.Va so far. Now that he's onto the McCree, at least for that stage of Lijiang Tower, the lack of defensive options really hurt the team. Republic and the rest of his team, you look at the way Ardeont played, very aggressive, and they do that anyway, but they do that with even greater success, knowing that there's less defensive options, knowing the D.Va doesn't exist, knowing there's no defensive matrix.
The other thing I found interesting was the decision to put Mui on the Tracer to begin with, and then also have no Tracer after that on Night Market. And the reason I find that interesting, look, like I said, he's no slouch on the Tracer, don't get me wrong, but you've got Shailin there, who is an absolute superstar on the Tracer. They obviously wanted to run the Tracer Genji. They had a team comp in mind, sure, I'll give them that. But you've got to deal with DM. And oftentimes, the easiest way to deal with DM is actually to have a Tracer going after them. We saw that in the Flash Wolves Ardeont series. Bacon Jack being able to deal with DM and shut him down was a huge boon for them at so many junctures in that series. And even then, they still went on to lose it. So an uncontested DM, that's kind of disastrous. And I feel like Mui just wasn't the right guy for it. But now Hong Kong Attitude going to take it on their pick to the same place they beat Mega last night. It's going to be on Hollywood.
And this is going to be the real test, because we do speak about some of the things that need to be changed here for Hong Kong Attitude. You do look at some of their lineups, you do look at the way their players are touching this game right now, how they're responding to Ardeont. Maybe not so clean onto Lijiang Tower, but you're right. This was a very good map for them last night against Mega Thunder. They need to bring some of that magic now tonight against Ardeont, because this is going to be a much difficult challenge.
It really is. They have to deal with the aggression in a much different kind of way, right? Mega Thunder themselves are actually quite an aggressive team. The difference is they move much more, it's interesting, they move as a unit in the more clustered sense. Ardeont are actually quite spread out, you'll notice in a lot of their plays. They really do send people around the side. They have healers hung quite a way back for safety, right? And a lot of the teams that do that end up getting split up because the coordination isn't down to that same split-second level as Ardeont's is. So Ardeont, by having such clean communication, by always being on the same page, are actually able to do that and get away with it. It is a much different beast for Hong Kong Attitude to deal with on their defense.
I have to address a lot of those issues, and going and using Lijiang Tower as evidence of how these two teams are performing so far is pretty accurate. We did talk about the fact that DM did a great job on Garden so far. Republic did a great job then again for his own team on Night Market. This time around, I want to see Ursa on Ardeont as well, because Ursa felt like he had the lowest impact on the team. He still got the kills in there here and there, but realistically it was DM and Republic for the majority of the time. But now that we're moving into hybrid, we know how capable Ursa is. We've seen him against other teams. We've seen him against Flash Wolves. The guy can get the job done, and that's going to be a scary thing for Hong Kong Attitude to deal with, because so far Ursa hasn't had the impact that he usually does. And when he does, Hong Kong Attitude might just be on the back foot.
And this is looking, I would assume, Hong Kong Attitude on the defense. Just running the Sombra here as well. So nothing too odd. We are starting to see a bit more of, the Oruses here and there. We do sometimes see Bastion on this map, but sorry, not Bastion, Torbjorn, but we haven't actually seen that for a little while. So on the whole, this is looking pretty standard.
Pretty standard. Mui back onto the Sombra as well. This is the typical Hong Kong Attitude Hollywood defense that we've seen them play already. They did this with a lot of success against Mega Thunder, this exact same lineup. We'll have to see how Ardeont handled this now. Certainly, will it be a masterclass from Ardeont, teaching everyone exactly what to do here. The Ursa are actually going to be on the Tracer.
Yeah, this is a little bit different. They're opting to pop DM onto this McCree, and they have done this before with DM on McCree when they're running McCree Doomfist, but this is a little bit different.
This does sort of speak to the preparation as well, because it does appear DM is the main McCree player on his team. That would make sense putting Ursa on the Tracer instead. You are wanting to take out Mui here. If you can get a good flashbang, that's when you're going to stop the Sombra right in its tracks.
Ting does need to be a little careful as he goes in for these dives, but so far, they've actually been pretty clean. Not quite getting, there we go, actually, the follow-up on DM. Shaolin going deep to get that, making it work as well. And they're getting some good closeout kills here. This is how you need to deal with Ardeont.
Hong Kong Attitude already getting the EMP, so Mui, we know he charges this quite quickly. He's showing us exactly how to do that. And for Ardeont, 1 minute off the table now, quarter of your attacking time gone. Now you're also playing into this EMP. How are they going to handle the situation? Hong Kong Attitude, you're expecting a big fight.
Expecting is one way to put it. Yeah, the EMP is going to be so crucial. Very quick commit, doesn't opt to follow it up himself, and Shaolin doesn't quite get the kill on DM. They're actually going to have a hard time maximizing that EMP now, but good damage on Republic, and the closeout on Erster means they do actually make it pay off. They do get a little bit more time off the clock, but they need to get that EMP back up quite quickly, given that they didn't get a lot of kills.
All in all, Ardeont handled that situation quite well for Hong Kong Attitude very late onto the follow-up. You saw yourself, Mui decided not to go for the follow-up himself. It's probably put in a pretty precarious situation. Erster going down, not the worst in the world, because now we're coming back into this next fight.
That was nearly a stick, but Jeff being the first to go down here, Mango going to kind of rejoin the team with this Transcendence, and nice buffered onto DM to take him out there. Randy as well getting closeouts here, and they are getting some trade kills in Ardeont, but actually for the most part, they're getting pretty well handled by Hong Kong Attitude. They're now starting to get a little bit more split up and routed off the back ends of these fights. Half of their attack time now gone. Ardeont aren't actually looking as clean as they always are.
DM popping out the Deadeye as well, so for Ardeont, you're using a couple of ultimates, but otherwise, this is when you expect the strength from Ardeont to really come out. DM and Ursa now both swapping. Go back to the tried and true. If you're going to swap, this is probably the best time. Anytime after this, you're now risking a situation where you're not going to be building up ultimates. Playing back into the hands of EMP as well. Look at Mui.
Yeah, and he's right into the backside, waiting out the Transcendence from Jeff first. They need to not lose anyone in that time, though, but as I say that, Mango Jai going down, and Ardeont do have the ultimates they need. No EMP commit just yet, but now they go for it as they trap Ardeont in the room on the side. Now, with the self-destruct makes it hard to follow up, indeed very hard when you lose Randy and a Ting, and they don't quite get the same kind of mileage themselves. Shaolin really trying to keep his team in this one, but without those healers, they can't really get topped off, and these DPSs will get closed out on. A little bit over 1 minute left, though, so a lot of time run out the clock for Ardeont, but they do break point A.
And now you have to sort of wonder for Ardeont, why even bother going into the Tracer McCree in the first place? You know Tracer Genji is so effective. You know putting DM on that Tracer, putting Ursa on his best pick, which is the Genji, is exactly how Ardeont have been winning most of the season so far. So for Ardeont, no surprise. As soon as they jump in with this, it's effective.
And again, a very aggressive move by Ardeont, but it really seems Hong Kong Attitude have done their homework. They deal with it nicely and pick Republic. Nearly actually got Ursa on the backside as well. But at any rate, Ardeont, they still move the payload, but they're not going to get the really aggressive fight they were looking for.
And they certainly don't get the aggressive time either, because like you sort of mentioned, 2 minutes already gone. They're working with 3 minutes now, just under, to get into B. This is now all down to business. There's no more experimentation. There's no more wandering around and floundering the time. It's time to go.
Oh, Ursa going in with the Dragon Blade as the EMP hit, but he's still makes it work. 2 for 2 now, and it's a Ting trying to keep the payload itself on lockdown. This is really still anyone's fight. Shaolin needs to start doing the work that DM is, though, because DM is still largely unanswered, even as a Ting is getting a lot of space on the payload. It does stop the payload from moving, which is good news, but Ardeont can just put the pressure back on at any moment.
This is still the issue, because Hong Kong Attitude at best are now just trading evenly with Ardeont.
Nice follow-up.
They're respawning a lot quicker here. They're reinforcing a lot quicker here. Finally now, you're expecting Ardeont to be rather on the back foot. The EMP did come out pretty nicely.
That was a really good follow-up on Republic earlier, which has opened this one up. Again, not quite going to get any more on the route, so very good retreat out of Ardeont. But Hong Kong Attitude are doing what a lot of teams have failed to do, and they're making Ardeont really fight for this distance.
Ardeont are going to have to be fighting this with only support ultimates this time around. It is a little bit of a step up from what Hong Kong Attitude have in their back pocket. They don't have the EMP, which has been very effective so far against Ardeont, and they need to get that in the bag if they want to beat Ardeont now, because Ardeont have a lot of sustain.
Good stick onto Republic, but instant Primal Rage that had just come up. They're trying to close out on him, though, before any other work can get done, but no such luck, because now DM has been able to get aggressive with Republic keeping him safe on the front lines. That's going to be the momentum back online now for Ardeont. Good close on DM at the back end, though, so Hong Kong Attitude get a chance to contest.
And Ardeont haven't even spent ultimates here yet, so they got all of that free push. Ardeont still waiting for Hong Kong Attitude to come in and contest themselves. CQB going down before Sound Barrier is a big deal.
And Mango Jai couldn't quite save him in time with the Transcendence, and now Ardeont, they know that Hong Kong Attitude are at a disadvantage. They just need to wait out some ultimates, and then they come back in. Here they go now, making the space first with the self-destructs, also matching Randy's there. Michelle's not actually back in the mech yet, and that's kind of running it a little risky, but they get the pick on Mui. It's again a little bit late on the Sound Barrier because they don't get the closeout. Good aggression onto Jeff, though. They start to even it up just a little. They need to come into the backside of this fight now. Erster can get a lot done with his Dragon Blade still, and that must be respected. EMP can come out, and Ating is going to be able to stay alive at least with this Primal Rage, but they need to be able to capitalize, and they've yet to do so. Ating does get one, but Shailen's pressured out anyway. They just can't quite follow up on that ultimate.
And all of these ultimates are kind of for folly here. You have Sound Barriers being used, not able to save their own teammates. Transcendence is very much the same story. CQB died on Sound Barrier. Mui dies on the EMP. All of these combo ultimates you want to use together to be effective. Hong Kong Attitude have to stagger themselves and trickle back onto the card and use them sparingly.
Yeah, they're not done just yet. Good corner trap on Mango Jai. Even as
this even feels like a waste.
Out, it kind of does. Well, it's also a waste for Republic, though, and the hack did come in. Hong Kong Attitude are actually still in this, and funnily enough, that gave them some time to stabilize. Stabilize isn't enough if they don't then win the fight, and it is Ardeont going to be able to win and cap just shy of overtime. Now Hong Kong Attitude have to be dead careful to not get routed. Randy also committing a self-destruct. Now, actually, this could have gone just a little bit too far the wrong way now for Hong Kong Attitude.
Good news for Hong Kong Attitude is they did buy a lot of time. Forcing the overtime count from Ardeont is no small feat, but Ardeont now, they're ready to continue this war machine, push that card forward. Erster nearly onto his next Dragon Blade. Jeff is going to be building up EMP as well. It's going to be Sombra versus Sombra, but Mui should come up first.
And remember, with this team, it's not actually the ultimates. It's the target prioritization and the positioning that has them constantly winning these sorts of fights. Hong Kong Attitude need to be outdoing it on that front, and they're just not finding it. Erster was unanswered for at the start of that fight, and it comes back to bite Hong Kong Attitude as they try and cue it off at the start. Ardeont, a minute is still plenty of time to cap point 3. Hong Kong Attitude needed to respect that.
And Ardeont set the trap there as well. Mui wanted to go in with his EMP. Jeff stayed out of it. He came back in and counter EMP. Now with DM going down early with Jeff following suit, this might just be a reset for Ardeont. They do have the time to reset, but they have to actually get out first.
Yeah, they do need to get out. That's going to be the key thing, and it's going to be hard to. Someone was pushing the payload for a moment there, but that has now officially been stopped up. They do need to pull back or win the fight, but this right now, they're committing, but this is kind of half and half, right? The respawns favor Hong Kong Attitude. Sound Barrier is going to be able to come in out the gate, and they've got ultimates to go on here. That could be all they need. Self-destruct makes space, catches Michelle. That's a big one for them. They lose one of the tanks, and now Republic not going to get topped off by the healers. This is what Hong Kong Attitude do kind of need. DM not going to be able to stay in the fight much longer. Dragon Blade from Erster could swing it and close it out at the 11th hour, but it doesn't look like it. Too much time spent deflecting, and Shailen closes out the kill. That's the defense Hong Kong Attitude have been looking for. Ardeont not quite going to get the full run through to point 3, but that is a heck of a lot of distance for Hong Kong Attitude to beat.
That's definitely a good defense for Hong Kong Attitude, all things considered. The standard is for Ardeont to camp out fully, so to have Hong Kong Attitude hold them out, that's something you got to be proud of, something that you can work with now. Win condition is clear for Hong Kong Attitude. They know how far they have to get this push now, and they just have to do that. For Ardeont, though, you do have to question a little bit what exactly went wrong on A. They spent 2 minutes putting Ursa on Tracer, putting DM on the McCree, didn't get the results, consistently pushed back, and then after that, they started getting the push way that we normally see from Ardeont. You have to consider, what if they got that extra 2 minutes and that wasn't blundered? This would have been a full cap out from Ardeont.
You're completely right. You do have to consider that, but then it must also be respected that during most of the Streets phase, I say most, that is crucial, they were actually running the Tracer Genji and were still getting stopped up quite a bit. They weren't outright losing fights. There were a couple that they were, though. And all in all, the payload was getting very little distance. That is, of course, until Ardeont put on the pressure themselves. And at that point, you had to question what went wrong for Hong Kong Attitude, such that they couldn't actually hold out the payload where it was. They had a lot of opportunities to close out this match long before the cart got to where it ultimately did. And right now, Hong Kong Attitude might just kind of be kicking themselves that they didn't get it earlier.
And actually, the biggest question mark for Hong Kong Attitude has to happen right at the start of the match as well. On to A. We have to go back to A for this because we had a big change up in terms of composition. Both DPSs went back to their respective picks. Ursa went back to Genji. DM goes back onto the Tracer. Big reset in terms of ultimate economy. This was Ardeont pushing in dry against a Hong Kong Attitude that were stacked in terms of ults. They had the EMP. They had other ultimates available. The EMP was used. Didn't really get any kills off that. It was Ardeont that was getting the return kills instead. And Ardeont made it work despite being behind.
That all being said, Hong Kong Attitude, as much as they may wish they had got the defense earlier, that is in the past. What matters now is your attack. Leave that defense behind. Now they're going to be coming out the gate. Triple DPS, Jeff on Sombra, and just about 72 meters to beat.
You can see Ardeont already just straight to business here. DM on the Tracer, Ursa on the Genji. This is their winning formula, and Jeff on the Sombra. He's no pushover either, but Mui will try and give him a run for his money.
They're just going to take a nice slow setup here. Want to maximize what health packs they do have. Mui. Ooh, able to be fine. Jeff as well getting out of that one alive, and it's going to be hard for either of these Sombras to have total control. So actually, these EMP charges being fairly level right now is good news for Hong Kong Attitude.
Both teams just respecting the space here. No one really wants to dive too aggressively to overcommit here. Both teams just making sure they have the correct area control. It does look like Hong Kong Attitude will be striking first though, but losing their first member.
Yeah, Mui not set up enough with the translocator. The rest of the team's able to pull back and not let it be a huge rout. Oh, DM, good follow-up on Mango Jai though. And now actually it can be a bit of a rout because the positioning was a little sloppy on the fallback. Mango Jai was far too exposed. No further kills though.
The actual biggest problem is because Mui was the one that died, Jeff gets his EMP first. Jeff didn't die. He continued doing damage. He was still healing his teammates. Mui, though, behind the 8-ball a little bit. If Ardeont strike first, they can get the EMP play in, but Mui now, he has finally caught up.
And you can't expect Ardeont to strike first. That's how they like to play. Instantly in. Jeff gets out alive as well as they close out a Mango Jai, looking to get the extras now. And this time it will be that route that they were looking for the first time.
Ardeont is such a clean EMP team as well. You see how their team positions. As soon as EMP is up, they see the play coming, they predict where they're going to be for that play, and all members poised and ready to strike as soon as EMP comes down. Doesn't even matter that Jeff translocates out straight away. Hong Kong Attitude, though, we need to see a little bit more results because they have had a few EMP blunders already.
Hong Kong Attitude as well held out pretty solidly for that first 2 minutes, and then it was in the next minute that Ardeont themselves capped, so this has got to be the go button, and instantly they fail to capitalize on the EMP. A little bit too aggressively charging in and letting themselves get cut off as the column march.
This has to be the EMP blunder that has been mentioned already. Ardeont, they knew how to play against it. You look at a guy like DM, he just makes sure he's out of the EMP range, kept his pulse bomb, doesn't get affected. Trace is one of the worst players, or rather one of the worst heroes to be affected by EMP. You're really cut off then. And now for Ardeont, Jeff is about to get the EMP back. It's back in Ardeont's court. We've already seen how effective this team is playing around it.
Moving around the backside instead, and that's the EMP out of Jeff, who's able to walk into safety. Sound barrier comes out afterwards though, so they're still saving this fight. Oh, Mango Jai. Caught in the self-destruct, that means Transcendence not on the table. And Hong Kong Attitude aren't exactly getting counter trades anyway, as now Randy gets the mech. That's going to be an EMP from Mui, but it's a late one. They had the time to hold on to that and reset, and not doing that is going to kind of hurt them. Now they're getting some counter trades in, but it's kind of hard for them to properly control this ground right now. They're making it happen just a little bit, but Ardeont can come in with reinforcements and stabilize. This is risky for Hong Kong Attitude rather than safe. But now, with that Transcendence that they didn't get earlier in the fight, they're getting a little bit more stabilization. EMP from Jeff, plus the sound barrier. This is the opportunity to stabilize that Ardeont had. That's what I was talking about. And only a third for Hong Kong Attitude as they instantly get routed again.
And every single time you see how effective EMPs are from Ardeont team, you do have to make the comparison as well because both teams, they use the EMPs, but only one team significantly comes out ahead. Hong Kong Attitude just not getting the mileage as well, even waiting for Mango Jai's Transcendence to run out. Ardeont knew, okay, we're going to give away 1/3 here, but we will come back strong. Going to play the EMP immediately then into the sound barrier as well. And Hong Kong Attitude, No answer.
And Hong Kong Attitude should have been expecting that. There is no fight ever where Ardeont have not done what they did just there, where they give themselves the opportunity to fight again. And now they know that they are one fight away from just closing this one out. Doesn't matter that Erster gets hacked, he's still going to kill Mui anyway, and they're just getting all the health bars topped off. No response kills from Hong Kong Attitude. They dive for the point, but getting that third isn't going to mean anything because there is no team to make it count. They are going to get repelled on point A. That is a heartbreaking way for that to end for Hong Kong Attitude because there were a lot of fights on their defense where they were really making Ardeont work for it.
And Ardeont did work for that. They worked extremely hard, and this is exactly the payout you get for the effort. So for Ardeont, a first point hold, this is kind of something that that for Hong Kong Attitude, they wish they did instead. Hong Kong Attitude, they nearly got in there. They had a 2-minute hold already, and then as soon as Ardeont swapped up back to Tracer Genji, they came on swinging. This is exactly what it looks like.
And it just feels like there were so many times where Hong Kong Attitude forgot what team they were playing against. I know that sounds really silly, but they were playing against Ardeont at a lot of moments. They were countering them out. They'd learned how this team had played. And like I said, you saw that on their street space defense. You even saw that on their point A defense. They were winning a good number of fights and they were winning them well. They were shutting down what it is that Ardeont often do to kind of prolong the fights, to give themselves the re-entries and re-grabs when teams aren't prepared for them. And then Hong Kong Attitude stopped doing those things. Instantly, Ardeont started winning fights, and they started looking easy while they were doing it too.
And this has to be the test for Hong Kong Attitude as well, and so far the marks don't look very good. 2-0 in Ardeont's favor, looking very strong here, looking to close out in another 3-0 victory, unless Hong Kong Attitude can bring it back. But so far, the evidence would say unlikely.
A reverse sweep would be pretty intense. That would be, I'll be honest, unprecedented. Indeed, we've actually not yet had any reverse sweeps this tournament, if I'm not mistaken. Had plenty of 3-1s, had plenty of 3-2s. Don't think anything's strictly been a reverse sweep. And
Not strictly.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Hong Kong Attitude were the first team to do it. I will say that boldly.
Well, Flash Wolves couldn't do it, and Flash Wolves had a very good run. In fact, I think even now, if you want to compare the two series, Flash Wolves had such a close series with Ardeont despite the 3-1 scoreline. In fact, they actually took a map off Ardeont with Hong Kong Attitude so far have not, which is on the hybrid. That was Nabani. This time it's Hollywood. And importantly, you do have to consider, yes, it's Hollywood, because this is one of Hong Kong Attitude's best map. I think that's unequivocally true for this team so far. You can just say that. They looked fantastic against Mega Thunder on this map. They really showed exactly why they were better than Mega Thunder, specifically on this map. It was very one-sided. Mega Thunder had some good blows against Hong Kong Attitude, but ultimately, Hong Kong Attitude coming out ahead. Now when we go up against Ardeont, this is why it's the real test, because everything you've got so far, all your preparation, everything you've learned, has to come down to whether you can beat Ardeont or not.
And that's the thing, right? Part of how Hong Kong Attitude beat Mega Thunder is that they were ultimately better at the payload-oriented maps, both Hybrid and Escort. Those are the ones they won. They lost the other two, right? They don't have the luxury of losing Assault here. If they lose Assault, they're done for. It's that simple. And even then, they've lost one of those payload-oriented maps in the first place anyway. So it's even hard to say that they would actually be able to win the Escort and second Hybrid maps if it came down to that. Let's take another look, though, at Hollywood as we get into some replays. And this was on the defense. This is the fight where Ardeont, like I said, set themselves up such that they could regroup and come in for a second fight.
Ardeont here, still with 1 minute 30 left. So now you see the EMP come out from Mui, but still waiting for the kills. You're just not really seeing the kills here. This is when DM and Ursa most recently swapped back onto this after playing the McCree. And this is why you got to talk about the EMP blunders. Yes, the EMPs do come down, but where is the follow-up from the rest of the team? It's actually Ardeont that get all the pickups, despite the good initiation from Hong Kong Attitude. And that has to be an issue for the team.
And it does unfortunately feel sometimes like Mui is just kind of using EMP to use it. One thing I do want to touch on, though, is right here, you now see Ardeont go for another kind of classic move, and this is where Hong Kong Attitude did actually react to them because they repelled that. A lot of teams wouldn't be set up for that and would just kind of crumble. Ardeont take advantage of that so often. They take advantage of the element of surprise, being where teams don't expect you to be, being far further forward than teams are anticipating, and therefore what they're ready for. The fact that Hong Kong Attitude could deal with that, along with the 3 minutes they held out for on point A, plus the stall up on street space. This is what I was saying when I mean they were actually playing against Ardeont. They were really factoring in how Ardeont specifically play Overwatch. And it was when they weren't doing that Ardeont were making headway, which was enough to almost fully cap out.
Exactly, and to be quite fair as well, you do have to then go back. Well, actually, let's go to the next replay before we talk about anything else. This is now going to be on Hong Kong Attitude's own attack. This is going to be an EMP moment for Mui again. Let's take a look at exactly how he wants to commit this one in there. Already onto Michelle, but there is the sound barrier counteracted from Animo himself. Jeff is still building up, but that doesn't matter because it is Ardeont cleaning up the kills. And once again, Hong Kong Attitude, despite getting the initiation, don't have the follow-up.
And here's the thing as well, that was a fight where honestly Hong Kong Attitude were too busy looking for a tool to win the fight. Their game plan was, we're going to use the EMP and then we're going to take the fight and we're going to use that advantage to win it, right? And of course Ardeont are going to know that that's the game plan. Of course Ardeont are going to know that, well, we didn't see EMP next fight, it'll be up now. And then they saw Mui going in. They knew that it was coming and they instantly went, okay, this just means we can engage on the rest of this team where we will be 6 versus 5. And Mui as well went in with the EMP and instantly translocated back out like he was scared. Hong Kong Attitude were actually just far too narrow-minded in their strategy there. EMP could have been a tool to close out a fight that they gained an advantage of, or a tool to gain an advantage for a fight so that they could then close it out through other means. It should not be the strategy of the fight. It should not be, this is how we will win it by getting everyone in an EMP and killing them all. That's never going to go off against a team like Ardeont.
Oh, certainly you can use, the strategy of the EMP is essentially you want to initiate with it, but the bigger problem is that Hong Kong Attitude don't have the follow-up. In fact, you have to look at Ardeont for that because they have the counter-engage already in the works before the EMP can really come in. So Mui, he tried to counterplay Ardeont himself, and just these mind games coming into play. Ardeont are the ones that actually get the initial engage. The EMP completely misses, and the rest of Hong Kong Attitude miss as well. But now, for Hong Kong Attitude, only one more opportunity potentially to refire onto Ardeont. It is 2-0 so far. Assault will be coming up next. It will also be Ardeont's pick. OPC Season 2 continues after this. Welcome back to OPC Season 2. We're about to continue the third map of the first series of the evening, Ardeont versus Hong Kong Attitude. So far, Ardeont taking a comfortable 2-0 lead into the series, and Hong Kong Attitude still waiting for them to fire back a little.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly expected up until now, right? The thing that's worth saying, I suppose, is Hong Kong Attitude's defense on Hollywood had some really, really great moments. Times where they were actually taking it to Ardeont quite closely. Times where, right, had they continued playing that way, probably could have held out with a solid defense, but that all counts for nothing because they didn't actually cap out point A anyway. Probably still wouldn't have been enough to result in a win on that map, and now they stand to lose the series altogether, and the pick for the third, potentially final map is going to be Temple of Anubis.
We've already seen exactly how Ardeont dismantled teams on this map already. Hong Kong Attitude may just fall into the exact same trap so far. This is, unfortunately now for Hong Kong Attitude, being Ardeont's best map.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing, is like Ardeont are good just about everywhere, let's be completely honest.
Especially here.
Yeah, especially here. No team in this tournament has one assault map that they're just way better at than all others. Like, no one really has like their specialty. They have maps that they're a bit more or a bit less favored on, but in general it's fairly neutral, right? But Ardeont's neutral level is higher than everyone else's, right? A map that is neutral for Ardeont, when they're playing on it, they look like that's their best map of that game mode. Like, that's just kind of the caliber of this team right now.
We do have to talk back about the EMPs again, because this is what's going to make the difference between these two teams. Temple of Anubis is a very somber friendly map. Expect both teams to go for the somber here. Whether that's Mango Jai or Mui on the Hong Kong Attitude side, also expect Jeff to be picking that up on the Ardeont side. Now, looking at Hollywood rather as an example, that was Ardeont showing everyone how to exactly engage an EMP. And for Hong Kong Attitude, a lot of mistakes were made on that map, and now they have to be correcting those mistakes very quickly if they want to take Ardeont here.
I mean, pretty quickly in the first round, Robin, we had to ask the question of Ardeont, is there any team that can stop them? And it turned out that the answer was no. The reason that answer took a while to come to light was because they faced most of the other top 4 teams in the final weekend of play, right? This time around, we're starting to get that answer pretty quickly because Hong Kong Attitude are currently the 3rd place team. If they lose to Ardeont, then realistically, the only other team that's got a good shot of taking them down this round robin are the Flash Wolves. Maybe Blank could do it, maybe AHQ could do it, but it feels a lot less likely if Hong Kong Attitude can't do it themselves.
Hong Kong Attitude need to have a really good showing as well, because that then puts the spirit into the other teams. That really shows the other teams, okay, we've made some headway here. We've made so far the best team in the tournament bleed. This is how everyone else can do it too. After this though, if Hong Kong Attitude can't do it, eyes have to go on to AHQ.
Yeah, AHQ, who, aside from Flash Wolves, have had the best looking performance against Ardeont so far, but this is still Hong Kong Attitude's own series against it, and it's Ardeont on the defense first. We have actually seen them opt to attack first, though, so this is a little bit more standard out of them.
We'll see Hong Kong Attitude now. It is going to be the EMP versus EMP battle, and Ardeont not going to change anything up. This is their successful composition that they used to hold A of Hollywood, now looking to do the same thing on Temple of Anubis.
Hong Kong Attitude, again, moving on the Sombra where he was struggling to have success and instantly going to be the first casualty of the fight as the close-in comes from Ardeont, just kind of reading that play, a little bit overly telegraphed here. And you've got to actually start asking the question of why they haven't put Mango Jai on the Sombra. He was such a shining star on Sombra on this map in Season 1.
And the answer may just be your value of the healing here. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what do you need more? Do you need more damage? Do you need more healing? Right now for Hong Kong Attitude, they know exactly what that is. But now, once again, you do have to notice that because Mui died first and Jeff didn't die, Jeff is going to get that EMP first, and that's going to be extremely important.
He will, but Ardeont are actually regrouping after suffering some casualties. So this is now the opportunity for Hong Kong Attitude. Has to be said, never count Ardeont out. Jeff is still going to try and buy time on this fight, as is DM, but that's a good pick on the Animo. Makes that reinforce really hard now without the Lucio speed boost, and that means they can actually close this one out.
Good humility as well from Ardeont to really say, okay, we're not going to go back onto that one. Respect the attack coming out from Hong Kong Attitude. It does, however, buy Hong Kong Attitude a little bit more time for Mui. Now both teams are going to have EMP available, but it's going to have to be Mui going in first, getting the first one in.
There it goes. They need to get the follow-up, though, and they have yet to. Shaolin's a bit of a late entrant, and they didn't actually catch a lot of members in that EMP. Now the response comes out in the form of a Dragon Blade plus EMP, but the defensive ultimate's decent so far, losing CQB. Mango Chai, why not? And they've actually got a real opportunity in this fight. If they can close out a few more, they can actually get a third out of this, but it's going to be hard, right? Ardeont really are going to go all out to make this happen. They got the respawn advantage, and Hong Kong Attitude are lacking in healers. Now, CQB is still trying to rejoin the team. Shaolin, no health back for you, buddy. Had to, unfortunately, go down in that fight, and just shy of a third, Hong Kong Attitude will get repelled, though ultimately that's not too unexpected. That's a very late self-destruct from Randy.
Ardeont now as well, swapping Ursa onto the Doomfist. It's going to be Ardeont, as you've already said here, to repelling Hong Kong Attitude out. You do have to then give credit to Hong Kong Attitude because they did a really good job of countering out Ardeont's own EMP play. Yes, they didn't really get much with their own, but neither did Jeff on Ardeont's side. So for Hong Kong Attitude, despite not getting that 1/3, they did get a lot of kills there. Now they just do have to get that 1/3, and suddenly we're going to see them on the board.
That's really the ideal for them. A little way away from the EMP, though. Oh, Mango Jai lazily floats into a pulse bomb. That wasn't stuck on him. That's really unfortunate. Now they're having a bit of a hard time busting back out of this room. Ardeont needs to not overextend, though, and they are going to back up.
Well, the pulse bomb wasn't stuck on him, but he was stuck near the pulse bomb. He was stuck against the wall, couldn't back out efficiently. But Randy's going to pick up Michelle's mech. This might give Hong Kong Attitude a little bit of room to breathe, allowing them to then attack into this next cap while Michelle's still waiting to get back in this mech. So Hong Kong Attitude, if you want to go, you should be going now.
Unfortunately, they had to wait for Mango Jai, who was the first casualty of the fight, as Jeff kind of wins the EMP fight, just way quicker on the trigger, and also way quicker on the positioning. Shaolin, super late pulse bomb. He gets a kill, but that is officially a wasted ultimate.
And that has to be said to be correct as well. Didn't have to use the pulse bomb there. Ursa even responds with a rocket punch, even while dying. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day that the pulse bomb was used. It was probably a good thing for Ardeont that they lost they lost Ursa there rather, because now they can sleep easily, knowing that Shaolin doesn't have it for the next fight.
Good opening pick on Jeff now. Mui's going to get an EMP off here, and Jeff is going to be able to re-enter with one, but there is now a window. They need to capitalize on it, though, with the EMP down. They're having a bit of a hard time converting these kills. Ardeont are too spread out, and Hong Kong Attitude can't go splitting themselves up to go on wild goose chases, or they'll get separated. That's exactly what happens now, as they struggle to keep the sound barrier on all these members as the EMP connects, and the kills all come up Ardeont. Another 2 minutes lost off the clock for Hong Kong Attitude.
This is where it starts getting really dire here, because Hong Kong Attitude had a decent attack onto A. Ardeont put up a good defense, but this is where no team has gotten past. No team really gets the cap onto Ardeont here. They're so good at this point B defense, EMP or not. When it comes up, it's a big deal. When it's not there, Ardeont still have weapons. They still have tools.
Hong Kong Attitude now, they do at least have some defensive ultimates, also putting Randy onto this Reaper so that the EMPs from Jeff don't have as much impact. But going to keep moving on the Sombra for now.
Defensively as well, we're going back to Lee Jong Tower Night Market, because this was when Randy was on a DPS. You lost a Diva, you lost the Matrix. I guess the good news is if you're EMP'd, you lose the Matrix anyway.
And this is Jeff, classic positioning. Does get hacked though and has to translocate before he can EMP. So quick fingers to actually get that off as the hack was connecting. Otherwise he would have probably died. Now he's caught out. Yeah, good follow-up by Hong Kong Attitude to close that out. And the EMP from Mui again, same situation as last time where they did fail to capitalize, and it's already going a little bit pear-shaped. Losing Mango Jai is big because that was an ultimate they needed to stabilize. But they do get some kills coming up their way now, and Randy close to a Death Blossom. Could close this out if Ardeont kind of slip up on the positioning as they contest, but he's going to go down. Hong Kong Attitude not converting the kills quick enough, and trade kills aren't really good enough either. They need to get a lot more than this, and Ardeont still have plenty of tools to use to stabilize. That's not even counting the respawn advantage, and there go the one-on-one kills on the side of Ardeont, and they're going to hold once again.
That's probably the scariest moment for Ardeont as well. Jeff, it's a rare occasion for him to get caught out like that, but just bad timing, or rather good timing from Hong Kong Attitude. They come in directly when Jeff is about to go in for the flank with the EMP, gets caught out in the middle of invisibility. Translocator is far too close as well. This time around though, Jeff maybe play a little bit more conservatively, and he should be right.
Yeah, trying to get really aggressive on Mango Jai, mainly to actually get that EMP up really quickly. Again, the pressure is coming in from Mui, but he needs to respect that that actually gives Jeff charge.
Jeff is getting close there already. Mui's still waiting, and Ardeont are going to get a more favorable fight this time. Last time you had a situation where Jeff went down quite early. This time it's Mui going down quite early, and certainly for Hong Kong Attitude, that means a full regroup.
Yeah, like that is exactly what you don't want. Also, he had got the EMP just a fraction of a hair before Jeff had, and there was the potential to get an aggressive fight there and then. That is now off the table, and Hong Kong Attitude are going to be going into not a stacked Ardeont, but still a scary one with that EMP.
Ardeont do wait for reinforcements, or rather they do wait for some of their ultimate charge as well. Now they're going to have to wait for reinforcements too.
And that's the EMP commit out of both teams, actually. But Mango Jai quick on the Transcendence. They need to convert while that Transcendence is running, though, and that's what they seem to be struggling with. They got some kills through now onto Michelle. Death Blossom to close out on Jeff as well is nice, but they need to take the fight to the point itself now, looking to try and get that position up, but they've lost Mango Jai. They're lean on the healers. CQB's got to work double time, but DM, again, the target prioritization from these guys, and now they can just wreak havoc on the few DPSs that are left. Hong Kong Attitude, I don't think they're going to have time to earnestly recontest this, and they're certainly not going to have the ultimates. Only 30 seconds left.
The good thing for Hong Kong Attitude is they are in a position where they have played the EMP situations quite well. That's an improvement from Hollywood already. They can get more out of their own EMPs. They get less, or rather they lose less from Ardeont's EMPs. But where they are failing is struggling to get the follow-up right afterwards. They can't get the kills in. Ardeont still do get the kills in, and now with barely any time remaining, they have to go for a dry push.
They're fighting into a primal rage. The pulse bomb does connect as well. So maybe they may be off at the table, but they're still capitalizing. And the EMP hasn't even come out yet and will still be available. Might not even need to come out because they've already killed most of the members. It's only a ting, and it's a one-man EMP doing it for style. And now Ardeont, all they need to get is a third of point B. Hong Kong Attitude not even getting that far.
Temple of Anubis is Ardeont home ground as well, and so far no team has managed to break through. This is now just Ardeont once again claiming that territory. They only just have to attack on through, get 1/3 on B. That's it. Hong Kong Attitude. They have to do the impossible now.
Hong Kong Attitude, like, how are you going to defend your home territory of the OPC if you can't even defend Egypt? And that was their claim at the start of the match. They were like, we're here to defend our home tournament. You know what? This is Ardeont's tournament now. You're just playing in it.
It's a tough reality to grasp around, but
Yeah, it kind of is.
certainly does appear that way right now.
No one has been able to beat these guys. Closest team has been Flash Wolves, getting one map win. And now no one's able to repeat that performance. And like I said, this is the third place team in the standings. If this team isn't going to be able to take a series win or even a map win, you have to start to feel that the only other team left in the tournament with the chance to do that will be Flash Wolves, who they will meet later on in this round robin, and dare I say
At the end of the round robin,
yeah, and
actually.
dare I say it, quite possibly meet in the grand final indeed, maybe not necessarily just a semi-final. I mean, on the whole, it feels like time is starting to run out for these teams in terms of figuring out Ardeont and really cutting them down to size before playoffs. We could just be looking at the eventual grand champion.
That's the thing about the shorter season as well, with only 2 round robins instead of the 4 from last season. You're not going to get that extra time to really assess where you are in the standings so far. You don't get that extra time as well to make mistakes and then make up for it later on in the tournament. Similar to what Hong Kong Attitude did in that first season. They had a rough run, then they came back really strong. This time around, they got a good start, but so far, is it a good enough start to take down the best?
Well, stranger things have happened on the defense of Point A Temple of Anubis, and certainly Hong Kong Attitude had the aptitude. That's already on the point. He's just going to get a third by himself here if Hong Kong Attitude don't respond to this, but they do send Mui back to respond to this. And by the way, Erster isn't going to get any kind of support for this move. Actually, they've got a third, and he was able to get Mui. Now they're coming in to get the contest properly, but that's a bit of a slip up from Hong Kong Attitude.
This is interesting because Erster's still behind enemy lines. It would suggest he's going for a spawn camp kill into Mui. Whether he gets that or not will be very interesting. Here he goes once more in the bottom right-hand corner. 1v1,
Wow.
Gets that kill, and now it's a 6v5.
Yep, they can just pincer in as Erster looking to rejoin the main part of the fight, cuts down Mango Jai on the retreat, and that's how Ardeont can break it. Hong Kong Attitude did not realize that Erster was unaccounted for. Mui did not call that out to his team, unfortunately. And they made the mistake of letting that third go through as well, so they don't even have the time to just regroup and come in for a final contest here. They had a great opening skirmish, except for the glaring mistakes.
Well, it certainly was a very creative play from Urshan. It should pay off now. You're going to get a lot of ultimates now for Ardeont and for Mui. We're waiting for that EMP, but he spent a lot of time in the spawn room. Still hasn't really gone to the halfway mark yet. Only just now does. But Ardeont about to hit their power spike.
Yeah, Mui pretty much hasn't played this game yet, right? He's finally getting towards the EMP, and a good pulse bomb from Shaolin has opened the fight up. They're actually keeping a decent lid on Ardeont. And by the way, there's no second point anymore for Erster to hide in as the fight goes sour, so he's just going to have to retreat the old-fashioned way.
That was a really important fight win for Hong Kong Attitude as well, because they needed to go over that tide. They needed to make sure the momentum push wasn't going to come out from Ardeont. Most importantly, Jeff died just before Transcendence could come out alive. And now Mui, he's allowed his second life. He's allowed the opportunity to get that EMP, the one EMP that he hasn't had for the entire game.
They're going to need to convert off it, though. That's going to be the real thing, because, look, Ardeont got a ton of ultimates anyway. Michelle still waiting to get back in the mech, but, look, time is on their side here. Pulse Bomb in, goes completely wide. Could have got a good opening pick, though. They've still got the ultimates to convert.
Certainly a difficult one to attach onto. Matrix was out, by the way, from Randy as well, so not the easiest thing to be able to achieve. Shaolin going down early might be something different, though.
Whew, Shaolin does save his life there, and he commits some ultimates so they can stabilize. That's a very late Transcendence from Jeff. They're confident that they can convert kills, but they've actually not converted the kills yet, and that's the EMP from Mui so that they can start closing out. Very nicely timed there, and they do indeed get those conversions they've been looking for. That was actually quite a greedy call by Ardeont to commit that Transcendence.
I think Ardeont thought they could get away with a lot more there, and by the way, not just the Transcendence, but also a Dragon Blade. 3 ultimates if you include the Pulse Bomb as well. Michelle waiting to get back into spawn, waiting to respawn. And Ardeont as well, now 5 minutes left on this attack. It's still a lot of attack time when you consider it all together, especially when they only have to capture 1/3, but Hong Kong Attitude, so far, they hold on to another life.
These divas, it's every time. It's so heartbreaking, you know? It's nothing worse than that pilot form diva. They're just like, they know they're gonna die, but you just hope anyway. And every single time it gets cut out. But speaking of hope, hope is still alive here for Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, because they have won a decent number of fights defensively now. If they can get this next EMP, it'll be a big deal. Ursa still waiting for Dragon Blade, so only defensive options realistically for Ardeont.
Great
We're probably going down early, no Primal Rage, full reset.
They do get the response kill on a Ting, but again, the EMP is in, so they can convert kills. And Shailin's got a good wraparound here. They're not quite converting, though. They need to get these closeouts, and they're having a hard time of it. Getting Michelle, though, is nice for them. And now we're in the situation where the even trades don't help Ardeont all that much. They do only need to get a third, and again, they're willing to commit. If they can fight, they will fight. But the sound barrier, all it's going to do is pull a couple more ultimates out of Hong Kong Attitude. They're not actually going to get a third for it, and they are losing some resources.
Ardeont, once again, they're really wanting to push into this fight when maybe they should take this a little bit more patiently. We talk about the respect factor. We talk about the fact that Ardeont maybe are at the sort of stage now where they do give a lot more respect to a team like Hong Kong Attitude and say, okay, we're not going to overcommit here, not going to overextend. And we are seeing a little bit of that overextension. They're getting punished for it. And for Hong Kong Attitude, just continue holding on. They still need to hold on for another 3 minutes 25, but suddenly it looks doable.
EMP available once again. That could be all they need, and Ardeont, because they did use up those defensive ultimates, I mean, the Transcendence was partly because Jeff was going to swap, but they now don't actually have that on the table. They're just relying on the straight-up healing. They are assuming they're not going to get bursted out.
And again, swapping as a symptom of losing the Transcendence or swapping because he planned it, we'll never really know, but we are going to get the Nano Blade now, which is going to be a really big weapon for the team.
That could be all they need to close it out, but Hong Kong Attitude have the defensive ultimates they need. That's going to make it hard to Nano Blade when the nano portion of that is dead. And Erster, you best not blade, my friend. And indeed, he is going to pull back and will be the only person to successfully pull back from this fight.
We are in a situation now where for Ardeont, they can now just play for that one objective. So far, they've been playing like, I want to say a little bit more desperately than they really need to here. They're sort of throwing into fights when they don't need to. We're about to be in a situation where they're building up to big 6. All of the ultimates available for Ardeont. You got to think this is now much more difficult situation for Hong Kong Attitude to defend, and especially without EMP, especially without your big ultimates like the Death Blossom.
The only difference is, I wouldn't know if I'd call it desperation. I'd call it hubris. It feels like they just assume they can win fights no matter what. And as an early sound barrier, possibly too early, as Erster instant conversion with that Nano Blade combo. Mui struggling to put in damage, struggling to get the hacks, and all they need is a third. So you're right, the 6 ultimates is all they needed to totally overpower Hong Kong Attitude. And heck, they've still got 2 left for good measure. Barely going to get the sound barrier off. before the win comes through, and that is another 3-0 in the book of Ardeont.
And that felt a lot more difficult for Ardeont than expected because they had 6 minutes, in fact, over 6 minutes going into B. But they only capped it out with roughly 2.5 remaining. So for a lot of the time, Hong Kong Attitude, you got to give them credit. They did a great job of defending when it really counted. But at the end of the day, all it took was for Ardeont to slow things down, really reassess the situation and say, okay, just got to play this game one fight at a time, go for that one big death push, save 6 ultimates, then get a cap out.
The only tricky thing you've got to bring up, though, is, like, you're completely right there. Once they slowed it down, once they assessed the situation and just, checked themselves a little bit, it was a pretty easy win from there, all things considered. And that's the thing, right? That was the easy fight when they were expecting on every other fight. And actually to expect it on those other fights was hubris, and it did actually cost them. They still won it in the end, make no mistake. But this is one of those potential weaknesses we do see out of Ardeont. They got away with it because they had 6 whole minutes, right? But that's not something they can always get away with, and you don't want to see this team at the top of the board with all these 3-0 wins going, well, that just means we'll win all the time, because that will be their downfall if they don't play cleanly at all times. We said no team can rest on their laurels, and that does include Ardeont.
And another 3-0 though, sort of already mentioned that one, but Ardeont once more collect this one. Wasn't the cleanest play we've already seen, but I think that really speaks to both teams as well. For Hong Kong Attitude, Hollywood, you really expected more out of this team against Ardeont, but everywhere else as well, Ardeont has had cleaner 3-0s. Let's go directly now into the replays.
And this was the initial push that came out, and this is the first one that got repelled. And you can see this is really a classic Ardeont setup. They've kind of moved members around the side. They're looking to get a pincer in, but honestly, the offense, it just doesn't quite come through, right? And this is actually, yes, this is their offense. I got a little thrown off there for a moment, but on the whole, look, it's hard to commit through that EMP anyway. You don't actually have to win it outright here and now, but this is where they start making those odd plays. That's a late commit out of Animo. Michelle had committed a self-destruct. He probably didn't need to commit as well. And they just commit late ultimates through and through in pretty much every fight up until the one where they win, because they had banked the 6 ultimates.
You do have to look back on, I want to talk about Ardeont's attack onto A as well, because that was really clever. So some things they did was really good. So when you really look at the situation, it was Jeff, or rather not Jeff, Mui on the other side with the Sombra getting consistently caught out. Ursa was the man that had his dial, and then Ursa deciding to get the spawn camp as well was a really good play that ended up paying off extremely well for Hong Kong Attitude. What happened after that was they were able to win a very crucial fight as the momentum push was coming out from Ardeont. So that was probably the catalyst to allow Hong Kong Attitude to get the number of fight wins that they actually did for about nearly 4 whole minutes, tied off Ardeont before Ardeont finally got that push in. But yeah, it was ultimately a little bit slow by Ardeont standards. And that's the scary thing, because most teams, that's about the standard that they would get it in anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You're completely correct there. So in any case, now this will be the one where they fully start to hold up Hong Kong Attitude, and this is a very slow loss for Hong Kong Attitude. Jeff commits the EMP so that they can just stabilize a little bit, and they kind of do, right? They commit all the ultimates they need to, because the conversion never really came from Hong Kong Attitude. They started getting a good number of kills, but from here they kind of run out of steam, and we saw this thing again. I even mentioned it during the game. DM kills the supports. When Ardeont know they're on the back foot, when they know there are a few too many members down to really fight full on, they pick off the supports. They fall back on that respawn advantage. And then as the members come out the gate, they come out the gate face to face with members of Hong Kong Attitude who are far too low to stay in the fight and haven't been topped off because the supports were dead.
I think you still need to make the comparison, because when you really look at B, Hong Kong Attitude had a decent amount of time in their attack, but they never really slowed things down. They never really consolidated and said, okay, we're going to wait for 6 ultimates, or we're going to wait for one big push, or let's grab some defensive ultimates out of Ardeont before we even push in, really take it off the board and make our lives a bit easier. That's the adaptation that you did see out of Ardeont. And said, yes, they probably played a little bit over aggressive, a little bit over eager, using ults when they probably shouldn't have, but eventually they pull back. Eventually they say, we are gonna play this map a lot slower and make sure that we understand the situation we are in. In Hong Kong Attitude, it's evident they never really did that because they never really camped.
Exactly. It's really hard, just by the way, to bait ultimates out of this team. Actually, we'll go into another replay here, and this is more towards the end of this, right? This, I believe, is the successful push of Ardeont. And you see the startling difference, to be honest. Actually, I think this might be the penultimate one. It is, because this is a good combination here from Hong Kong Attitude. But for the first time, we do see the discipline from Ardeont to not waste ultimates. Michelle held on to the self-destruct that he could have used. DM had just got a pulse bomb that often he does just throw out the moment he gets it. He decided to hold on to it. And then the fight immediately after that, they had actually drawn ultimates out of Hong Kong Attitude. They'd drawn 3 ultimates out of them, in fact, without giving up anything of their own. Hong Kong Attitude on their own offense, this is what I was talking about just before, we're struggling to do that, but that's more down to Ardeont winning a lot of fights without having to commit ultimates. They know when they don't have to use ultimates to win fights, and that makes it very hard to bait ults out.
That's the thing, and I'll go into one more replay here, and this is the actual fight where Ardeont do take it out eventually. They have 5 ultimates here still waiting for Animo, and this is going to be where Hong Kong Attitude, they do commit first with their own sound barrier. CQB goes in, looking for trades now, but it's Ursa that finds Mango Jai first, really important. Now the sound barrier does run out. CQB's low. Moe's low, he gets caught in a string of big kills, and this is kind of before ultimates really start even coming in from the Ardeont side. Now the Ardeonts do come in, and still 2 more left to go, and they still haven't, and they win it before even having to use them.
Exactly, and there was a couple of micro moments in there from Hong Kong Attitude, unfortunately. Like the self-destruct was kind of trying to recover the fight at that point. They were trying to just put it on the point, make a bit of space that Ardeont couldn't fight in. But actually, Hong Kong Attitude weren't in that space themselves either. They weren't actually falling back and regrouping to that space that Ardeont had to steer clear of for the few moments while that channeled. And Ardeont killed the members of Hong Kong Attitude that were stuck around the fringes of the point itself, which at that point was all of them but the tanks. Player of the game going over to Jeff on the Sombra, and I think rightfully so. His timing on EMPs and his constant outplaying of Mui on their own point B defense was absolutely instrumental in pulling that off.
It certainly shows the difference between these two teams in terms of their coordination on how they apply the EMPs. That was the conversation that was had when we looked at Hollywood, and it was instrumental in how Ardeont actually won that match cleanly. Then we look at Temple of Anubis as well. Similar story, less EMPs being relied upon overall from either team. It eventually came down to the side where Ardeont on their own attack even decided we're not going to play EMPs, not going to play Sombras or anything like that. We're going to go onto the tried and true. Jeff played Zenyatta, then he played the Ana, and eventually Ardeont got it over the line.
Eventually, indeed. They did, like you said, use up half of the time they had available, which was not at all necessary, but it happened. All's well that ends well, I suppose. Ardeont with another 3-0, and a well-deserved, ultimately unsurprising 3-0, I think we should say.
Yeah, I think for Hong Kong Attitude, this was going to be their most difficult match, still as the 3rd place team going up against the 1st place team. It's always going to be a big challenge, and Ardeont, they're no strangers against any team down to the OPC. They're felt across the board every single team's skill level. So far, Flashwall's the only team to take a map off them.
And like I said, this is where you start to question who can take these guys down before playoffs, or will it indeed be playoffs for Ardeont?
All right, going to get into the post-match interview now with Michelle. I'll be translating over into English.
他们是拥有不败之身，在迎战了4连胜的 HK 这支队伍的时候，赛前呢会是比较紧张的呢，还是相对来得轻松许多呢？
경기하기 전에는 약간 좀 긴장하는 감이 있었는데 그냥 편하게 게임한 것 같아요.
他说他就是在比赛开始之前呢，就是觉得有点紧张，但是他觉
So I
得
was a little bit nervous at the start,
赢得很轻松。
but I feel like it was still a pretty straightforward one. So yesterday you said you were quite concerned about Hong Kong Attitude's supports. But it feels like it was a lot easier than you were expecting.
저희가 다른 팀이랑 할 때는 3포인트를 다 먹었는데 이번 홍콩 팀이랑은 2포인트밖에 못 먹었는데 그만큼 상대가 수비를 잘한 것 같아요.
他说，就是他之前，就是他们之前在跟其他队伍比赛的时候，几乎都是
So
3-0大获全胜嘛。
in other matches we've had a lot of 3 and 0s.
他们第2场在那个好莱坞地图的时候，
But on Hollywood
只拿2分，所以他觉得就是代表真的香港队的防守真的还是非常厉
But I
害。
feel like because we didn't fully cap out Hollywood, they had a really good defense.
HK 就对了。
对。
好。 那么请念宝来帮我们发问。
我想问一下说，因为 PTR 有一个 Diva 有跟动式，它多了一个微型导
So
弹
in the
在它的
PTR,
右键右上
Diva
角
has
想问一下
had some changes where Matrix has been nerfed, but had micro missile rockets been added. How do you feel about the changes?
지금 패치 전 디바는 약간 매트릭스 케어로 팀원을 케어하면서 수비적으로 하는 플레이인데 패치 후에는 새로운 스킬이 추가돼서 약간 공격적으로 플레이 스타일이 바뀔 것 같아요.
就是他说，就是之前 Diva 呢，好像都是就是在防守上面比较
So it
厉害。
feels like Diva is very defensive right now.
就是改动之后呢，就是好像变成就是攻击比较强。
But after the
所以
patch,
他就觉得好像
Diva seems like more capable of offensive maneuvers rather than playing
对你们来说
defensively.
你是攻击性蛮强的队伍，你觉得这样是好的？
Do you feel like that's a good change?
디바가 이렇게 약간 강해졌는데 약간 팀에 대해서 약간 좋은 영향이 주셨는지 궁금하다고.
예, 그냥 앞으로 더 세질 것 같은데요, 저희 팀.
他说他觉得他们队以后应该会变得更强。
I feel like it's even better
好，
now,
来问一
especially
下
for me.
因为目前 Apex Season 4已经到了
So-
最后的8强
So we're in the top 8 with Apex
在
Season
访
4.
谈那个网络上的访问中有看到说 ART 很常跟现在韩国前2的队伍做团练。
So it feels like you guys practice a lot against top Apex teams.
最终 Apex 是谁会进到冠亚军赛
Who do you feel like is
对
going to be the top teams in Apex this season?
들어가셨는데 약간 8강까지 올라갔는데 그럼 혹시 이번에 약간 아디언트 팀이 약간 상위권들이랑 연습 많이 하셨다고 들었는데 그럼 혹시 이번에 1위랑 2위 약간 결승전이 약간 들어갈 것 같은 팀이 약간 누구랑 어느 팀이 있는지 예측
팀이요?
네 예측해보세요.
저는 결승전은 콩두 판테라랑 약간 루나티카이 두 팀 예상해요.
他觉得就是那个 Lunatic High 跟那个
I feel like it's going to be Lunatic Kai and Kongdoom
就
Panthera
是
again.
应该说上一届的冠亚军，
对
他觉得他们
对
会一样
So。it feels like the top 2 teams from last
想问
season,
一下
yes.
说你对他们2队的评价是什么？就是他们是输出比较厉害呢，还是辅助比较
What do you think is good about those two
팀에
teams?
대해서 평가가 어떠신지 궁금하다고. 약간 수비가 더 강하는지 아니면 공격적으로 더 강하는지.
각 팀마다요?
네, 두 팀. 루나티카이랑 쿤투.
루나틱은 약간 탱커와 힐러들이 좀 많이 잘하고 콩두 판테라는 탱커와 딜러들이 좀 잘하는 것 같아요.
他说就是那个 Lunatic 是感觉像是防守啊跟坦克，
So it feels
好
like
像做的比较好。
Lunatic
然后但是
Kai's defensive line, especially the
攻击
tanks, are very good.
就是坦克的方面做的比较好。
I feel like that's one of their biggest strengths.
好的，再次谢谢 Michelle 以及 Rinika 还有
So
我们的
there it
念
is,
宝
a Michelle from Ardeont with the post-match interview after their 3-0 victory against Hong Kong Attitude. Still giving props over the Hong Kong Attitude side. Respect still being given there. Had a good defense on Hollywood. Can't speak down on that.
Yeah, the thing is, though, on the side of Ardeont now, I am very much reminded of Flash Wolves towards the end of Season 1, where we were starting to say, these guys will just look better than everyone else in the tournament. Is anyone going to be able to stop them up or even slow them down before they reach playoffs, or do they just take the whole thing, right? And the answer was no. No one did that, and Flash Wolves walked away from Season 1 the champions. So we may very much be looking at the Season 2 champions. Still plenty of time to go, though, towards playoffs, and there's still a lot of challenge ahead. The key one will be Flash Wolves, but for now, Ardeont are secure in making playoffs itself. They just need to get to that grand final and secure themselves the victory.
And now the first match of the day has been gone and out of the way. Limited Supreme take on AHQ after this as well. And still to come up later, Blank Esports against Machi. For now, we'll be taking a break, and when we come back, OPC Season 2 continues.